Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Author Karalee Ratliff has written a new Christian novel and it just hit stores. It's titled Redemption, and I'm going to find out all about it. Karalee is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Karalee, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn about Redemption, Karalee. Can you tell me all about this story?
Oh, it's an awesome story. It is the third book in a 3-book series, and it brings all the first 2 books into a conglomerate of 3 families coming together that didn't even know they had a lot in common. It shows how the will of God will just pick things out of the air and put things together, and you're sitting there going, how did that happen? I absolutely loved writing this book.
That's fantastic, Karalee. What sorts of readers did you have in mind for this?
Well, this is actually, it can be as low as in the teens. It's an easy read. It's simple English. I don't get all flowery and over-the-top fancy. It's regular, everyday English. Anybody from about the age of 13, 14 till 150, 160, pick your age group. It's good for everybody.
Would you say you're writing primarily for a Christian audience with this?
Well, the Christian audience is going to catch it a little bit faster, I think, but it's well-rounded for anybody can read it. I've got several readers that are friends of mine who are not necessarily the typical Christian, or they're not sure if they believe or not, but they absolutely enjoy these stories because it's meant to reach and encompass a large, vast number of people.
So how did this all come about, Karalee? How did you get the idea for this and the series in general?
Honestly, it all started with an argument with God several years ago over the first book. I swore I had already written something in that area of what he wanted me to write. It took me a good year to concede and realize that I hadn't. The first book's called Chasm, and that's the one that I argued with God over. And then right as soon as I finished Chasm, I went right into writing Gentle Breeze, which is the second book of the series. And then that one rolled right into Redemption, where the first 2 kind of played right into this third one. And to be honest, I'll give you a little sneak peek. There's a 4th book in the works.
Wonderful. So how long does a book like Redemption take you to write and then publish and all that?
Well, Redemption took me roughly 6 months to write, and then about another 6 months to get published and out into the public.
So once you hook up with your publisher with Christian Faith, you start that whole process. Karalee, what did you find the most challenging part of that end of things?
Being patient enough for them to do what they said they were going to do. I became quite impatient. The first 2 books, I was okay. I was rolling with it, and I was so excited. I mean, super duper excited about this book to hit the shelves. I was like, yes. And my publisher was like, you need to calm down. It takes just a little bit. We can't do this overnight. And I was like, but I want it.
And what's that feeling like whenever you finally get to hold the first copy, that thing you put so much time and work into?
Oh, there's no other feeling like it, really not. When I first held Chasm, I nearly cried. And then as the next 2 books in this series came out, and then with Redemption, I was so proud of it because of all the work that I put into it and the way the storyline progressed. I mean, in Redemption, we go from just a simple man trying to find his way back across the chasm of doubt and fear into Gentle Breeze that encompasses a homeless vet. And then that homeless vet in Redemption, how him and the main character of the first book come together and actually surrender their lives to God. I mean, that was just phenomenal to watch that all come together.
Yeah, sounds like you had an awful lot of fun writing these. Was anything like writer's block ever a problem for you?
No, not really, because with my books, it's all God-breathed. If he didn't give it to me, I just didn't write. Chasm, I would write 10 or 15 minutes a day. Whatever he gave me to write, that's what I would put to paper. Redemption, I almost couldn't type fast enough. That story was just right there, and he was like, here you go, get busy. So writer's block for Redemption was really not an issue. Some of the neat little nuances for Redemption, I was like, you serious? You want me to write this? But okay.
Well, sounds like this book, this whole series is going to be really exciting. Again, this one's titled Redemption. It's written by Karalee Ratliff and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So get it at places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Karalee, it's been fantastic talking with you tonight and learning about redemption and the whole series. Thanks again for talking with me.
Hey, not a problem. It was a pleasure.
The new book by author Gwendolyn Johnson. It's titled Zuri's First Road Trip. It's a tale of curiosity and discovery through a young child's eyes. And we're going to find out all about this. The author, Gwendolyn, is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Gwendolyn, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Gwendolyn, can you tell me all about Zuri's first road trip and what readers are going to be getting into here?
Oh, Zuri's first road trip. Oh, it's about this little girl named Zuri. Is going on a road trip with her parents, and she's very curious, and she loves animals, and she's curious about what animals eat. So Zuri is getting ready to go on her road trip, and she's packing her clothes, and she's thinking about sharing. So she's going to bring extra toys for her cousins because this book is about helping kids to understand sharing as well. So she's packing her clothes and her extra toys for her cousins. The next morning, she goes to get ready to go and gets in her car seat. Now, most kids do not like car seats, right? But Zuri understands that it's the safest way to travel. So to be safe, she gets in her car seat and she's okay with it. So on the road, she sees animals. And she's very curious about what cows eat. And she sees a cow. So she asks her mother, what does cows eat? So she learns that cows eat hay. And then they come across a deer. So she says, Mom, what does deers eat? And her mom says, deers eat hay, grass. And she's so excited. And she sees all these animals. She sees rabbits and raccoons. And her eyes become very tired and she just falls asleep. She missed the fox that walks by in this book. She was sleeping. And Dad said, wake up, Zuri, we have arrived. So Auntie Candace and her two cousins, Kalia and Cassius, came out to meet them. Now, these two characters, the little boys, Cassius, he loves Band-Aids. So in this book, he has a Band-Aid on his forehead because most kids like Band-Aids. So even if there's no boo-boo, owie, he wants a Band-Aid. And his brother, he likes pink. So, I'm like, it's okay if boys wear pink. That's fair. That's okay, people. So he has his pink shirt on. She brings out her toys to share, and they play for a little while, and then it's time to eat dinner and take baths so they can play again tomorrow. The next day, they go to the park, and it just tells you it shows a picture of what Dad is cooking, like hamburgers and hot dogs. And so when I read this book to a group of kids, and I was asking them what was on the grill, and they was like, hot dogs and hamburgers. So they were very, very interested. They were very excited.
So how did this come about, Gwendolyn? What gave you the idea for it?
Well, I retired. And when I wasn't really working, I kept thinking about what I really wanted to do. And I always loved writing. So I had to decide what I wanted to write about. But my grandchildren was always on my mind because they were traveling from here to Colorado all the time in a car seat on a road trip. And it just came to me. Write a children's book and involve your grandchildren. So that's when I decided to do that. Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No, I've always written little, here and there, but never had anything published before. And I never written a kid's book before, a children's book before.
So being this was your first one, this is a lot of new ground for you. Was this a long journey that you were on, the writing and publishing?
Well, yeah, it was. I had to wait, for a while and do some corrections, for the publishing. So it took almost a year. Very rewarding, though.
So now that you are published, what is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Reading this book, I was invited to read to a group of kids, and the kids were excited. I was really happy to see their faces light up in their curiosity. So that was very rewarding for me, That was very exciting.
Well, what a wonderful message in this book. I think readers are really going to love this. Again, it's titled Zuri's First Road Trip. It's written by Gwendolyn Johnson and published by Christian Faith Publishing, so you can really find it everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Gwendolyn, it's been so nice talking with you tonight and learning all about your work. Thanks again for talking with me.
And thank you so much for giving me a call and inviting me. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sitting down right beside me now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be talking with Dr. Kim Bell, licensed physical therapist. Kim, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to say congratulations. You have a new book out titled Navigating the Healthcare System as a Dizzy Patient. Kim, can you tell me what this is all about?
Yes, I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I have about 25 years of experience in this profession, and I've been specializing since 2006 on helping people with dizziness and vertigo. So I finally wrote a comprehensive guide for patients who are seeking effective health care for dizziness and vertigo. In the book, I offer expert advice on root cause evaluation and how to navigate the complexities of the healthcare system to find answers and relief as a dizzy patient.
I love it. What was that spark, Kim, that got you started on all this?
I do a lot of public speaking around my community, and I offered a lecture at UCSD in 2017, which has been viewed millions of times online. I received inquiries from people all over the world looking for help. But since I'm licensed as a physical therapist in California, I'm not allowed to provide individual medical advice to people unless they're my patient. My patient care is all given in person. So this is a solution I came up with in order to give people tools and strategies, education, information, and hope in order to find answers and relief where they live.
We were chatting a little bit before the show, and you told me this is your first book, and that is a huge thing, Kim. So did this take you a really long time to do, being that this is a lot of new ground for you?
Yes, it took me about 3 years from start to finish. And what I found is I love writing. In fact, I have published over 200 blogs on my 2 blog sites that I maintain. But editing a book is a whole different story. It was actually a big challenge for me to edit the book, and that took the longest amount of time. But the writing and editing combined from start to finish took me about 3 years.
So there's a lot of time, a lot of hard work went into this, and finally that day came and it was a real thing. Their first copy came in and you're looking at it. Kim, what kind of a moment was that like for you?
I think it was a moment of disbelief that it was finally done, that it was finally here, that sort of my side of the equation was complete, that I had delivered a book for people to read and benefit from, hopefully all over the world. And I'll tell you, the funniest reaction I saw was when the book arrived in a box in the mail so I could check it over before we went and published it. My husband opened the box and he said, "Whoa, this is a lot thicker than I expected." And I just said, "Don't worry, you don't have to read it."
Well, now that you're officially a published author, your work is out there for the world, Kim, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think the most rewarding aspect is to actually have something concrete to offer people who contact me from all over the world. Previously, I was just sending them links to blogs and videos I have on my YouTube channel, which are little snippets of information in digestible bits. But now to have a comprehensive guide to be able to suggest that they can purchase, and it's not very expensive, it just feels really good to me to be able to offer them something concrete and specific, not too expensive, so that they can advocate for themselves.
So looking down the road now, Kim, do you see yourself writing and publishing more?
You know, I'm actually continuously writing. I publish 1 blog per month on each of my 2 blog sites, betterbalanceinlife.com and vertigodetective.com. So I'm always writing. And the book, it started off in a skeleton format as a grouping of different blogs that were grouped into topics, and then I fleshed it out into a book. So it's possible down the road, once I accumulate more blog content, that I might write another book. I'll have to figure out what topic I want to focus on, and I'm also considering writing smaller and shorter booklets of individual topics. So because this book is fairly long, it can be intimidating to some people. but it is easy to read and it's a conversational tone. It's not a textbook. I don't cite a lot of research studies. It's not a technical book. It's very much like I'm just sitting there talking to one of my patients, helping them advocate for themselves.
What a great resource this is. It's definitely needed out there. Again, it's titled Navigating the Healthcare System as a Dizzy Patient. This is written by Doctor of Physical Therapy, Dr. Kim Bell, and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Kim, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show with me.
Thank you for having me.
The new book by Tamara Grether. It's a tale that follows a young duckling who discovers all it takes to do something well is passion. The book's titled The Little Duck Can Dance. Tamara is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we get to talk all about this book. Tamara, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Tamara, I'm excited to learn about The Little Duck Can Dance. Can you tell me what readers are going to find here?
Well, hopefully they will find that it doesn't take you being the best at anything or being superb or being, unbelievably good at something. It just takes passion. Just takes you really enjoying doing something. And that gives you, all the gratification that you need. And sharing that passion with family and friends makes it even better.
I love it. What sorts of readers did you have in mind for this?
I think the predominant age group or the age group that will really understand the concept of the book are probably 7, 8-year-olds. My daughter is a third grade teacher, and she actually read the book to them when they were doing a story about perception, and they were wonderful with it and understood completely what the book was about.
So how did this come about? How'd you get the idea for it?
Actually, this all started with writing books for each of my grandchildren when they reached the ages of about 3 and 4. And over the course of time, my children were, constantly talking to me about actually writing a children's book and having someone take a look at that for me. And it just, in combination with writing books for them and understanding what they were interested in and, things that they were starting to go through as they got a little bit older, kind of gave me the idea for the book.
So once you started on it, was this a long journey that you were on, both the writing, the publishing, the whole thing?
The writing, no. That seemed to come fairly easy. I had the idea in my mind of what I wanted the book to project. So that part was relatively easy. The publishing takes a little bit of time. So a little longer process than, I was familiar with. But it's been a learning process for me, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in that publishing process, and something that's especially important when it comes to children's books is the illustrations. So was that a difficult thing to get lined up with kind of what you were seeing in your head?
A little, because it was something that I had never done before. The illustrations that I did for books with my grandchildren were either done by another family member or pretty elementary artwork by myself. So going to a professional illustrator was a really neat process to see how they came up with it. But trying to imagine and have them see what I was seeing was a little harder, but it all came together really well.
And when it was finally a real thing, the finished product, that first copy came in and you were holding it for the first time, Tamara, what was that like?
I was thrilled. I really was thrilled, so excited. Just everything came to fruition. I was able to share that with my children and grandchildren and see their excitement. It was truly wonderful. It really was.
So when you think to yourself, you're a published author, your work is out there for the whole world, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Just hoping that somebody will take from the book what I intended for them to take. Seeing it out there, seeing my name on a book has been thrilling. I don't know that I really could have imagined how that was going to make me feel. But the main thing is I really hope people that read the book themselves, the children that read it or parents that read to their children, will get the same takeaway that I had hoped everyone would get.
So what's next? Do you have plans to be publishing some more here down the road?
I really hope so. I have lots of ideas running around in my head and then, that I would like to get out there. So hopefully, yes.
I've noticed a lot of the authors I speak with also love to read. The reading, writing thing, they tend to go hand in hand. So do you love to read as well?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I can't tell you how many books a week I used to read and have always loved to write and did that as a teenager quite a lot. It was my method, I guess, of expressing myself.
Oh, I love the message of this book. I think readers are going to love it too. Again, it's titled The Little Duck Can Dance. It's written by Tamara Grether and published by Newman Springs Publishing, so you can really find it everywhere, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Tamara, it's been really fantastic talking with you and learning all about The Little Duck Can Dance. Thanks again for being on the show with me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
The book I'm looking at right now follows one man's quest to discover the story behind the Nativity and the Christmas holiday. The name of the book is Searching for Christmas, and it's written by Joseph Adams Love. And Joseph is right here with me now. We're going to talk all about it. Joseph, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Joseph, can you tell me all about Searching for Christmas and what readers are going to get into here?
Well, the book is set in the future in a kind of a different world in that it's after a Holocaust of sorts, and there's been a lot of destruction and other elements that have come because of wars and other situations, including misuse of the World Wide Web in putting so many untruths out there, and that's caused so much disruption in the world that there's been wars and other activities. And ultimately, in a rebuilding process, kind of an evil empire has emerged, and they are known as the Source, and they're an elite circle with all of the great things in life, all of the opportunities, all of the privileges, and everything to make their lives very comfortable. And it's the source of the government of the area, and they rule everything. Yet they have no place for those who are poor and those who are on the outskirts of the source, and they offer them nothing. They don't protect them. So it's one man's quest that's on the outskirts that used to be a member of the source. And he had a best friend in there, and that friendship over time, because his friend got some power and the power went to his head, and before long he was ousted from the source and all of the privileges and opportunities, and he and his family were left to fend for themselves on the outskirts known as desolation. And so it's the story of his surroundings and trying to make the best of his life, and the discovery of a small wooden artifact that had a little inscription on it, the Nativity. And he had no idea what that was. He had no idea what Christmas was, had never heard the word. And it takes him on his quest, a very suspenseful quest, because all of a sudden he's put back in with his former friend to try and do work for him under force. And his family is in jeopardy. His few friends are in jeopardy, and he goes on a path to try and find out what this nativity means in the midst of being thrown into a very precarious and dangerous environment within the source where he's under scrutiny with armed guards and others. And he has to do some creative things as the twists and turns lead him closer to finding little tidbits at a time of what the nativity is about. It's got a lot of twists and turns, a lot of danger, and a lot of discovery that brings a kinder, gentler side of him out as he makes that discovery, because he's a very angry man to begin with.
So once you put all your time and hard work into this and you got your first copy, you were finally holding it in your hands, what was that moment like for you?
There was a sense of elation and success, because that was a long journey. And granted, for those 20 years, I never even thought about it at all. But over the last a couple of years, I started thinking about it, and that was a grand moment in my life to actually have a published book.
So do you think you would do it again? Do you think you got some more books in you?
That's a good question. I'm not sure at this point. Possibly, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
Again, it's titled Searching for Christmas. It's written by Joseph Adams Love, published by Hawes & Jenkins Publishing, and available really everywhere, places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Joseph, thank you again for joining me on the show and telling me all about Searching for Christmas. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
This book is a call to action, demanding action against the sin and greed destroying the nation. The name of the book is The Church in Shackles. It's written by Dawn M. Lewis, and we'll be talking all about it. Dawn is here with me now. Dawn, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about being here.
I'm excited to learn all about The Church in Shackles. Dawn, can you tell me about this?
Yes, I wrote a book. I've been an educator for well over 33 years, and the just violence that's been targeted to our youth has just been perplexing me. And I'm a Christian, and I just believed in my heart that there was like this deafening silence of the church and our political leaders to really do something about the deaths of our children. It's like we've taken an oath to serve and protect, but I've just seen little or no effect. Some offering up of prayers, but that's kind of like it. And so I felt like I had an obligation to do something, not just complain, but what could I do to help affect change? So that's how the book came about.
What sorts of readers did you have in mind when you were working on this?
Well, I initially started writing it to the church because I really believe that if we are followers of Christ, then we care about the welfare of all kids, all people, everybody. But as I wrote this book, it started to also be for parents, for educators, for public officials, anybody, honestly, that loves children, that loves people. I felt like this book could tap in and reach people to find out what could you do? What could you do independent of anybody else to help solve this problem? And I believe that it's just a call for everybody to do something.
What does your writing background look like, Dawn? Have you ever done much like this?
I have never written a book, although I was a nationally recognized principal in 2011 for the state of Texas. I did a lot of writing for schools, doing things to help turn around struggling schools for other administrators, but never a personal book like this. So I've done some speaking events, and of course, I sing in the church, and I've worked in the church, and so I've done a lot of public appearances and work. But God shifted me into another realm and work, and I fell in love with it. Sometimes I would find myself just up writing all night. Yeah, I love it.
So once you decided to get started on this, clear up through when it was published and it's out there, was this a long journey that you were on?
It was a while in the making because I kept having tugs at my heart. And I didn't want to seem like I was indicting the church, although I was kind of speaking directly to them. But I didn't want it to come off as I believed all religious leaders were there. And I didn't want anyone to think that I didn't believe that there are strong, powerful people in the world that really can affect change. But I wanted to do something. And so as I retired, I was still working with kids, trying to help fund kids to college. And the book came. It just came to me one night and I said, enough's enough. I cannot listen to another tragic story. So when the shooting happened in Florida, and I'm based in Florida, I was like, it was enough. It was just enough.
What an important book. Again, the title is The Church in Shackles. It's written by Dawn M. Lewis, published by Covenant Books, and really available everywhere like Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, and also right down the street at your local bookshop.
Dawn, it's been fantastic talking with you today. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm telling you, if you read this book, you're going to love it. It will inspire you to do something to help children.
Author Sherri M. Parker has written a new children's book. It just came out. It's titled The Donut Shop Chronicles, Lenny and the Donut Holes. And Sherri is sitting here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we're going to talk all about this book. Sherri, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell me all about Lenny and the Donut Holes and what people are going to find in the book?
People are going to find that an unlikely relationship, a friendship, is birthed out of donut holes.
Interesting. And you had children in mind for this. Were they younger children, older children, or do you think pretty much all children?
I think all children, all ages. I used to be a high school English teacher, and I have found that older children and adults like children's literature books as much as young kids do.
So this is such a creative idea. It's so interesting, Sherri. So where did this come from? What sparked this?
I quit teaching to raise kids, my own children. And then when it was time, when all the kids had left the nest and I knew I did not want to go back to teaching, my mother-in-law owned a donut shop. And she said, "Why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "Sure." And in that donut shop, I was speaking with some of the other workers, and I had told them that I used to be a teacher and I loved children's literature, and I'd always wanted to write a book. And they suggested, "Why don't you write something about the donut shop?" And that's where Lenny was born in that conversation. And so I just ran with it, and it just happened so quickly, so easily once I put the pen to the paper.
So prior to this, Sherri, have you been published?
One time, a little bitty poem in a book, and I don't even remember the name of it. I think it's something like Dances in Moonlight, maybe, but it was just one little poem about a blind girl. And as far as publication goes, this is the first project with my name on it.
Once you got started on it, was this a long journey from beginning to end?
It has been as far as the publication process goes, but it didn't take me very long, maybe 3 weeks to write it, to run it past my family, to just make sure the wording flowed and the thoughts.
So once you started that publishing process, you hooked up with Christian Faith Publishing, you got the ball rolling. What did you find the most challenging part of that end?
Just being a newbie to the process and not realizing that a lot of time goes into illustrations and editing. That caught me off guard.
Yeah, the illustrations are super important in a book like this. Was that a difficult thing for you to get to line up with what you're kind of seeing in your head?
Yeah, there is a difference between what I saw in my head and what's actually on paper now. I had to trust Christian Faith Publishing. I had to trust their illustrators. And once I relinquished that, my vision of the illustrations was not necessarily the right way to go. Once that trust was built and I thought, maybe they are seeing it better through the experts, I let it flow with them.
Wonderful.
So I think they did an outstanding job. I'm glad that I relinquished that control to them.
And there's nothing like seeing that finished product, so that day finally comes for you, Sherri, and you get your first copy of this in, finally holding it in your hands. What was that like?
It was emotional to have the tangible product in my hand. And yes, I did get emotional. And one day at work, a mother who is a teacher in our little hometown, she brought her 2 twins in, and they had the book and they wanted me to autograph it. And they had questions for me, and they took their picture with me. And it was just so surreal. And just the process that is tangible, I'm making an impact. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more satisfied with this dream that I actually put in motion, and now I'm living it.
Yeah, so now you're published, you have your work out there for the world. What's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
It is the impact that I am making on people that I've seen. Friends and family have bought the book, but strangers have also bought the book. And I almost don't know what to say about it. It's just so, I'm living a dream that I've had since I was in 4th grade.
I think children, families are really going to love this. Again, the title is The Donut Shop Chronicles, Lenny and the Donut Holes. It's written by Sherri M. Parker, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Sherri, it's been really nice talking with you tonight and learning all about Lenny and the Donut Holes. Thanks again for coming on with me.
Well, thank you. I had fun tonight.
The new book by Janet Fertig is a tale of a young boy and his dog who cause all sorts of mischief while chasing a butterfly. The name of the book is The Butterfly Chase, and Janet is here with me now, and we're going to talk all about this. Janet, welcome. Thanks for being here with me tonight.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to be talking with you, and I'm curious to learn all about The Butterfly Chase. So, Janet, what are readers going to find here?
Well, you kind of said it in a nutshell there. It's about Jason and his dog Mutt, and they start chasing this butterfly all over town, and they get into more trouble. I wanted to write it to make it humorous, fast-paced, and it's a lyrical rhythm to it, so it's a good read-aloud book also. And it also not only is entertaining, but it has a lesson to it. Hopefully, the reader learns how to own up to his mistakes and to respect other people and their things, and that's the message at the end of the book.
What kinds of readers did you have in mind for it?
Well, this is a children's book, and I would say from 1 or 2 years old on up to about 10 or 12, maybe 12's a little old. I would say around 10 or maybe 11. And the younger ones, of course, Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa can read it to them. But then when they get a little bit older, they'll enjoy reading it themselves as well.
So how did this come about, Janet? Where'd you get the idea for this story?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was an elementary school teacher way back when, years and years ago, and even before I raised my family. So anyway, way back then, every morning when I taught fourth grade, about 10 or 15 minutes, I would read to the children. And you can tell within 2 or 3 minutes if they enjoyed the book or if they were bored to tears. And I thought to myself, way back then, someday when I have time, I'm going to write a book that they will really enjoy and yet learn a lesson. And so I was thinking about the story way back then. And then, long story short, I raised my family, have 3 children, raised my family, and helped my husband get his business started. So I was really busy. So I just put that on the back burner and actually didn't think about it until after I was retired. And then I had the time. And so then I sat down and I wrote this. I had the urge to write The Butterfly Chase because I watched my own kids and I knew what books they like, and they like action, they like fast-paced, they like something that's humorous. And if you can sneak a lesson in there too, that's wonderful.
So once you got the story together, you handed it off to the publisher, you started that process. Was this a long journey that you were on?
Well, no, it was a long journey, but I can't really say I worked on it all that time because I had such a busy life I was busy with. But I just kept thinking, someday. And so finally, when I had the time, I had a ball writing it. It was so much fun to write. And I'm just hoping that kids who read it have just as much fun reading it.
Yeah, something that's really important in a book like this is the illustrations. So, Janet, was that tricky to get those illustrations just right?
Actually, the illustration team with my publishing company, which is Haas and Jenkins here out of Scottsdale, they did the actual illustrations, and I was so pleased with what they did. When I worked with the team, we worked on a spreadsheet, and they told me, okay, you can have 11 pages of illustrations. And I thought, oh, that's good. So I divided my story kind of up in 11 sections, and I told the illustrator exactly what I wanted on each page. And oh my gosh, she was right on. And I was so pleased with the way it came out. We only made like 2 or 3 corrections.
And then that day comes for you, and you open up your mailbox, and your first copy finally arrives, and you get to hold it for the first time, Janet. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, that was a thrill. I thought to myself, by golly, don't ever give up on your dreams. It may happen someday. When I got the first one, I was anxious to show it to my daughter.
Well, I love the message in this book, and I know readers will too. Again, it's titled The Butterfly Chase. It's written by Janet Fertig and published by Haas and Jenkins Publishing. So really, you can get it everywhere: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Janet, it's been really great talking with you tonight, learning all about the butterfly chase. Thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Author Hayley Lapointe has just released a collection of poetry offering valuable insight and spiritual inspiration. The title of the book is Poems for the Spirit. And we're going to be talking all about this. Hayley is joining me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Hayley, welcome. Thanks so much for being here with me tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you telling me all about Poems for the Spirit. Hayley, what are readers going to be getting into here?
So it's a collection of poems mainly talking about spiritual life and how we rely on God and look to God during different difficult times or, praise Him during good times. It's really mainly just kind of centered around, the walk with God and how He works in our lives.
Would you say this is a book primarily then aimed toward believers?
I would say so. Definitely, those who are questioning their faith or looking to pursue maybe a relationship with God, or just those who have questions are definitely welcome to look at it too, because it does also have poems that, look into that potential of, I have doubts, I have fears, but ultimately God is the answer.
So, Hayley, how did this all come about? How did you get the idea for the book?
Well, so I started writing poetry from a very young age. I was raised in a Christian home, so that's a lot of what I grew up with, was believing and knowing that God was real. And then when I accepted Him into my heart, it just kind of became something that materialized and morphed as I grew in my walk with God, and I just wanted to let others know about it as well.
So is this the first time you've been published?
Yeah, this is my first book.
So being your first, was this a long journey once you started collecting it all, putting in that manuscript format and publishing, or did this happen quickly for you?
No, it took a bit of time. I'm a perfectionist at heart, and I really hated the idea of doing something wrong. So I had to not only just do the work, but grow in the knowledge that, it may not be perfect, but that's okay. Just, I knew God wanted me to publish these, so I just had to trust that He was going to take care of the rest.
So once you had your manuscript together, you hooked up with your publisher, Covenant Books, you started that publishing process. Hayley, what did you find the most challenging for you about that publishing end of things?
The most challenging thing was the editing. Like I said, I took forever to get back to my editor because I hated the thought of getting anything wrong. So I would kind of agonize over the words. And then I just also procrastinated because that fear of, oh my gosh, this is becoming real. This is actually going to happen. So I think I just hated the idea of getting it wrong. So getting past that and getting it out there was the most difficult part.
Then one day, the thing does finally become real. You're holding your first copy in your hands. Hayley, what was that like?
It felt really good. It's different, when you have it in your hands because it's 3D, it's shiny, it's smooth. Like you can feel the book as opposed to just seeing a flat screen. It's pretty cool.
So do you think you would do it again? Do you think there's some more publishing ahead of you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I would definitely just push myself past, any fears at that point. I'd just be like, Hayley, just do it. It's okay.
I'm looking at the book right now, and I love this cover. This is a beautiful cover. How did this come about?
So I mentioned that I'm a perfectionist, so it took forever to actually think of anything. And I was praying. I was like, God, what kind of cover do you want? This is your book. It must be special. Of course, I want it to have some kind of special meaning. And the Lord gave me, the idea of a candle because He says that we are the light of the world. And so I'm like, okay, well, it has to be a candle. So what do I go from there? And my sister, actually, my oldest sister, she volunteered to create a design for me. She's not a professional or anything, but the design she came up with, I really liked. And so she agreed that I could use that as the cover for the book.
Well, now you're officially a published author. Your work is out there for the whole world, Hayley. So what's the most rewarding aspect for you about that?
Just knowing that God can use it in other people's lives. I've really wanted to get it out there for a while, and I knew that that was something that God wanted, and so just knowing that He can use it and hopefully just help people, that was the main thing with that.
I know this book is going to be inspiring and encouraging to so many readers. Again, it's titled Poems for the Spirit. It's written by Hayley Lapointe and published by Covenant Books, so find it at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Oh, Hayley, it's been so nice talking with you tonight and learning all about Poems of the Spirit. Thanks again for coming on the show with me.
You too, Corey. I appreciate your time.
This is a tale of adventure, friendship, and determination. It's the new book by C.J. Ayers, and it's titled Howling Wolf at Flatbread Creek. And the author, C.J., is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to talk all about the book. C.J., welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to learn about Howling Wolf at Flatbread Creek. So can you tell me what readers are going to find in here?
Hopefully they're going to find an adventure of 4 farm brothers and sister siblings that find a unique way to go out and find a wolf that they feel is trapped and calling for them through his howls for needing help. And these children go on this exquisite adventure. And at the time period that I wrote this book, there are no computers, there's no cell phones, so they've got to figure this out just by the resources they know from having lived on the farm and taking care of farm animals and just kind of living out in a rural area. One of the things about the adventure is that these young 4 children pit themselves against the group of farmers who want to find that wolf and kill it before it causes too much trouble.
Well, that sounds exciting, C.J. What sorts of readers do you think would like this the most?
I thought about this for younger audiences, and my hope was I was thinking, maybe like the 4th, 5th grade level, where they're kind of looking at stories that are built kind of like the Boxcar Children from, way back when. It's a story that just, you talk about family unity and the importance of community, trying to understand how to make a choice that you're doing the right thing. And even if it puts you up against maybe even your father, who's going to be part of the group of hunters, ask yourself, am I doing this for the right reasons? And them to understand that making a choice, you have to look at all sides of it.
So how did this all come about, C.J.? What sparked this story for you?
Actually, I was literally sitting in my living room one night and I heard a dog that was howling, off in the neighborhood somewhere. And I have a lot of woods around my house. And I love wolves, and I know a lot about them. I've studied wolves, and I've studied the almost extinction of wolf in North Carolina, South Carolina, and upper parts of Georgia, where I'm from. And so I heard this dog just howling, and this story just kind of just unfolded like a movie in my head. And I had thought, wow, I like this. I like the feel of it. I like the moral of it. I like the adventure of these 4 children taking resources and being able to formulate a way to save this wolf and help it get back to wherever it really belongs. So it just kind of unfolded.
So what does your writing background look like, C.J.? Are you familiar with this, or is this kind of new ground for you?
Well, actually, I started doing a lot of writing when I was in grammar school. I got turned on to creative writing when in the 4th grade we were allowed to start using our spelling words, as we called them back then, focus words, and we had to write a story using all the words. And strangely enough, it turned out I had a pretty good imagination. And I continued to do just some little bit of writing in school and grammar school. And in high school, I did a lot of writing, took a lot of creative writing classes. And I just became very interested in the process of the journey you can take through fiction. There's no limit to it. You can do whatever you like. In 1982, I wrote my first novel. And before I finished that novel, I actually started my second novel. So to date, I've actually written 5 books, but I haven't published them all yet.
Once you got started on Howling Wolf, was this a long journey for you, the publishing, writing, everything?
Well, the writing part of it is fairly easy to me. I literally can sit down and pretty much crank out 2 or 3 chapters. And my chapters aren't really long. I do kind of a quick read where chapters are maybe 3-4 pages, and then you go to the next chapter. So that allows me to move at a very fast pace because I think very fast. The editing is a lot. You have to go through it. You have to be very meticulous. I think it was probably an 18-month journey, start to finish.
Again, it's titled Howling Wolf at Flatbread Creek, written by C.J. Ayers and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can really find it anywhere like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, C.J., it's been wonderful talking with you tonight and learning all about your work. Thanks again for chatting with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this very much.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.